Celeste Rivas Hernandez's death certificate has been updated and it is unknown if she was pregnant. TMZ obtained Celeste's new death certificate and it no longer says that she was not pregnant. Now that section is marked U for unknown.
What they got were the prosecutors laying out what they say is very damning evidence that proves David is the one who murdered Celeste Rivas Hernandez.
Now we know that prosecutors are alleging that David is the last one that drove and parked that Tesla before he left on tour on July 29th of 2025.
April 2026. Everything flipped when one of the most shocking celebrity murder cases since O.J. Simpson hit the spotlight. Rising pop artist David went from fame to cuffs after being arrested in connection with the killing of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Things turned even darker when her body was found hidden in the trunk of his Tesla, where investigators believe it may have been for nearly 4 months. An eerie detail that shook everyone. The timeline made it worse. It took about 7 months after the discovery for an arrest to happen. Then viral footage dropped. TMZ released video showing the exact moment LAPD officers took him into custody on suspicion of killing a teenage girl, and the tension was impossible to ignore. Online, people didn't stay quiet. Users started connecting dots, pointing to alleged patterns and past behavior that made the situation feel even more serious. When charges came in, they hit hard. First-degree murder, along with claims of lying in wait, financial motive, and a possible link to an ongoing investigation.
They wanted to lay out all the evidence they had.
They laid out from the entire timeline from when David and Celeste first met, when she was 11 years old, right through him leaving his car on the street with her remains in that car.
One of the most unsettling parts came after the alleged crime. In the months before the body was found, David kept moving like nothing happened, posting online, staying active, and dropping cryptic messages to millions. Now people are looking back and asking, were those posts hidden confessions or reckless oversharing? Once Celeste's body was discovered in his trunk, everything flipped. He vanished completely. No posts, no statements, just silence until the day of his arrest. And those old posts people once ignored? Now they're under a spotlight, raising serious questions he can't dodge. This timeline gets deeper.
Prosecutors are alleging that they have video footage evidence of this and also other evidence to prove that David was the last person to park this Tesla. And this one wasn't released by the cops, it was released by the private investigator Steve Fisher, who has claimed he had this video for months from a Ring camera.
On July 29, 2025, David reportedly stepped onto his tour bus to start his Withered World Tour. But right before leaving, something strange allegedly happened. His Tesla was moved and left parked on a quiet street in the Hollywood Hills. That car then sat there for weeks in the summer heat. As time passed, neighbors noticed something was off. A strange smell spread, but it took nearly a month before anyone reported it. By September 5th, after tickets and complaints piled up, the Tesla was impounded. Just 3 days later, workers at the tow yard noticed a strong odor and called police right away. When officers opened the front trunk, what they found shocked everyone. Inside were human remains in such an advanced state that investigators couldn't even confirm basic details right away. The scene was deeply disturbing. Early reports were messy and unclear, adding more tension. But within 24 hours, the Tesla was traced back to musician David Burke, who was still out on tour, performing like nothing had happened. A spokesperson later said he was fully cooperating, but one detail didn't get much attention at the time.
Is that they say in November of 2024, they broke up. They were still in contact with each other. It seems like she was mostly back home in Lake Elsinore. Then on April 22nd of 2025, they get into a fight, and the prosecutors say they have this all in text. A huge fight where she is jealous about the fact that David is seeing other women, and she threatens him and says, threatening to go public and reveal the fact that they have been in a sexual relationship,
Which she
that he has
said,
been having sex with a minor.
which she says is going to ruin his career.
That same night in Minneapolis, David wore a jersey with the number 97, the same numbers as Celeste's birth date, September 7th. Now people are looking back, questioning what that really meant. Investigators took over a week to officially identify the body, but online, things were already heating up. On Reddit, users shared theories and alleged details. One post claimed a teen from Lake Elsinore had been around David and hadn't been heard from in months, raising serious concern. At the same time, other posts pushed even further, throwing out heavy accusations. One user even called David a predator, claiming he had inappropriate connections with someone younger and tried to keep it hidden by influencing people around her. None of this was confirmed, but the rumors kept spreading and pulling more attention into the case.
Fight on the 22nd. 23rd, he sends an Uber to go pick her up in Lake Elsinore. The Uber picks her up at 8:40 p.m., gets to David's house at about 10:10 p.m. She gets dropped off. This is the moment where prosecutors say, as they described it, he is lying in wait in his home because they believe that when she walked in the door, very shortly after that, he stabs her, cuts her, stabs her, and watches her, as they describe it, watches her bleed out, makes no effort to save her.
Everything shifted on September 16th, when authorities officially identified the victim as 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez from Lake Elsinore. That news hit hard everywhere. Right after, David suddenly canceled the rest of his tour, leaving fans confused and the situation even more intense. Behind the scenes, police were executing search warrants at his Hollywood Hills home. At the same time, online communities kept digging, trying to map out a timeline that was starting to look more serious. Some claimed David first connected with Celeste through online gaming spaces back in 2021, with interactions continuing privately over time. Even more unsettling, people said hints about their connection had surfaced before in certain online groups, but weren't taken seriously. Now those old messages are being re-examined, with many questioning what was missed. As David's fame grew, so did the scrutiny around his past. After signing with Interscope and dropping Romantic Homicide, people started pointing out eerie coincidences. The video for that track was released on September 7th, the same date as Celeste's birthday, and featured dark, fictional scenes. With everything unfolding, those details suddenly felt a lot heavier. It didn't stop there. Viewers began noticing patterns in his creative work. Multiple videos featured actresses who looked very similar to Celeste, and it kept happening. On top of that, some of his releases seemed to line up with her birthday, adding more suspicion to the situation.
And it seems like after prosecutors said that they believed David was the last person to drive the Tesla, that this private investigator had different thoughts. And he released this video. He also said, now that the prosecution has released a briefing for the preliminary hearing in the David case, we are releasing the surveillance footage of the Tesla being moved on July 29th. The driver is light-skinned with long hair wearing a red jersey. Even though he didn't name Neo by name, we all know that he is talking about Neo because the last photo of David and Neo that was taken the night before the Tesla was parked for the last time, Neo had on this red jersey.
By early 2023, David had moved from Texas to Los Angeles, putting him close to Lake Elsinore. Not long after, timelines started overlapping in ways that raised serious questions. Reports of Celeste being missing appeared to match moments where she was allegedly seen in photos tied to David, creating a timeline people couldn't ignore. Attention then shifted to those around him. Online investigators claimed some people in his circle may have known about the connection. Alleged messages from February 2024 even mentioned a missing persons flyer, with her age clearly stated, making everything feel even more concerning. By mid-2024, photos from David's sold-out Fonda Theater show started spreading online. In them, a girl believed to be Celeste appeared in the VIP section near major people connected to David's career, including someone described as a top management executive. She was also seen close to members of David's family, making people question who knew what. Then, another clip allegedly showed Celeste backstage, walking beside someone from David's inner circle. Those moments added more pieces to a timeline that online users felt was getting harder to ignore. But here's what raised eyebrows. Despite allegedly being around him often, Celeste never appeared in official event photos. To many, it looked like she was kept close but away from cameras, making the whole situation feel secretive and controlled. And soon, people started pointing to clues they believed hinted at something even darker. After Celeste's body was found, details became extremely limited. Authorities shared very little, creating almost total silence. But online communities, reporters, and private investigators like Steve Fisher kept digging, slowly piecing the story together. When David was finally arrested, more details started coming out. Legal documents and reported evidence began filling in gaps about what may have happened between him and Celeste.
This is when he starts purchasing items to, according to prosecutors, dismember the body and start to dispose of it. He purchases a shovel from Home Depot that he has delivered via Postmates, 2 chainsaws. He does so under an alias, another name, Victoria Mendez. He purchases a body bag, a laundry bag, and an inflatable blue pool. Now, this is what's fascinating about the blue pool is the forensics team by the prosecutors has now matched, they say they've matched those blue fragments to the pool that was put down to protect the floor where he was dismembering the body.
By summer 2024, photos had already spread online showing the two together in public. In those images, Celeste appeared to be wearing a ring, while David had a marking on his finger, details that quickly sparked speculation about their connection. Around that same time, more clips surfaced, suggesting Celeste may have been staying at a property near David's Beverly Hills home. Some described it as a private space tied to him, adding another layer of secrecy. At one point, they even appeared together on a live stream, raising even more questions about what was happening behind the scenes. In early September 2024, despite reports she was missing, Celeste was allegedly seen near her family home. A neighbor's camera reportedly captured her outside just a day after her birthday, leaving people confused. By December, things took another turn. Messages claimed David had deleted all photos of them from his social media, and Celeste reportedly told people the relationship was over, adding more tension to an already serious situation. Just weeks later, things didn't add up. David was seen back in Lake Elsinore, less than a mile from Celeste's family home. In one clip that spread fast, he appeared to be handing money to a teenager. Some believed it looked suspicious, while others said it wasn't clear, but either way, it raised serious questions.
Just weeks before they're claiming he took this Tesla for the last time and parked it, there was actually a stream where David randomly brings up a bad smell in his bathroom. Literally came out of nowhere in this stream because he was around them for a while, and then he literally says, "I apologize if you smell this bad smell coming from my bathroom. I just took a poop," like making a joke out of it.
As 2024 wrapped up, more claims came from private investigator Steve Fisher, who was tied to the property David had been using. He said photos recovered inside allegedly showed David and Celeste together again, including images placing them in downtown Los Angeles. One photo reportedly showed David holding a knife, something many found disturbing. Then more images surfaced from New Year's Eve. They appeared to show Celeste around David and his group, extending the timeline into the final days of the year. After that, the trail reportedly moved through quieter areas, including a campsite in the Angeles National Forest, before ending in Baldwin Hills. One of the last known images believed to show her alive came from this time. Looking back, those trips to remote spots raised concerns, and as 2025 began, David released One More Dance, a song about a final moment before someone is gone, timing that didn't go unnoticed. One of the most talked about moments came from a music video. It showed David in a shirt that looked stained, dragging a body toward a car trunk with help from 2 others. The scene continued with the figure being buried alongside a camera. Visuals many found disturbing once people started connecting it to the real case. By the next month, people noticed how close the timing of his releases was to key moments in the investigation. The overlap between his content and the timeline prosecutors later described started to feel less like coincidence and more like something worth questioning. Then, another detail raised eyebrows. David announced his album Withered would drop on April 25th, 2025. Just 2 days after the date, authorities would later claim Celeste was killed. Around that time, he stayed active online, promoting his work while posting content that included Hello Kitty imagery, something people noted Celeste liked. It wasn't just him getting attention. In early March, creator Chase Keith released a short film called Buzzkill, showing a fictional story that turned violent. Viewers later pointed out similarities to reported case details, adding even more concern. Not long after, signs pointed to Celeste no longer being around. The lease for the Dowie Drive property, where she was reportedly staying, was suddenly ended, and after that, her whereabouts became unknown. Still, small clues kept popping up. In one TikTok, A handbag matching one Celeste had been seen with appeared in the background, sparking more speculation. Right before the alleged crime, David was still outside like everything was normal. He performed, showed up at Coachella with friends, and kept pushing his album rollout. Nothing in public hinted at the serious accusations that would later surface, which made the timeline feel even more unsettling. Then came April 23, 2025. The date prosecutors say everything changed. According to documents, David allegedly brought Celeste to his Hollywood Hills home, where what happened next became the center of the case. Prosecutors claim he was under pressure behind the scenes and feared details about their connection could come out. They allege he used a sharp object, causing multiple injuries, including one that was fatal, claims now being examined in court. If that timeline holds up, what came next raised even more questions. Prosecutors say Celeste was last seen entering his rented home that night and was never heard from again. But David's public life didn't slow down at all. It looked like everything was normal. That same day, he was already back online promoting his career, sharing pre-sale details for his Withered tour. Then on April 24th, his team hosted an album event in Los Angeles, and he showed up right on schedule, like nothing had changed. The rollout kept moving, and people couldn't ignore that timeline. Just 2 days later, he was in New York, out in public, meeting fans and performing on stage. During that show, he debuted a track called Afterlife, but suddenly broke down, crying and unable to finish. At first, it seemed like emotion from a stressful moment, but later, people started questioning it. Some even claimed parts of the album included audio that sounded like Celeste, adding more unease. Less than a week after the alleged killing, David appeared in interviews talking about someone who used to be close to him, saying they were no longer in his life. In one moment, he mentioned a person tied to the idea of invisible string theory, which some later connected to Celeste. At the time, it didn't get much attention, but now people are looking back closely. As time went on, more hints about a relationship ending showed up in interviews. But online, something else was happening. In a Discord server he reportedly used, messages surfaced showing the word decay being posted over and over again. By May 5th, 2025, a date prosecutors later linked to key events, those messages felt a lot more serious. What once looked random now seemed tied to the timeline investigators were building. Official findings added even more weight. Reports described how Celeste's remains were handled and later recovered from the Tesla. Investigators also noted small blue plastic fragments, possibly linked to a tool, details that pushed even more online speculation. Even more painful details came out as the case unfolded. Reports said some of Celeste's fingers were missing or damaged, including one that had drawn attention before due to a marking linked to David. That added another heavy layer to an already devastating situation. Then things got even stranger online. Activity in a Discord server linked to David started getting attention, with cryptic messages appearing. One line read, "Let us remember who you deceased," and it left people unsettled, especially with how it seemed to line up with the timeline. At the same time, the imagery in David's final performances stood out. His shows leaned into dark themes, caskets on stage, guest books, and visuals focused on death and remembrance. Fans said it felt more symbolic than a normal concert, which only raised more questions later. Then another eerie moment hit. Just 2 days before Celeste's body was found, on what would have been her 15th birthday, David announced a deluxe album titled Mars Essence. The timing didn't sit right with many. For months after the discovery, David remained free, until an arrest finally came, closing that long gap but leaving even more questions. Even as everything started closing in, David still had a strong legal team backing him, claiming the case was weak and built on nothing solid. But that didn't stop what came next. On April 16, 2026, his freedom came to a sudden end. Police showed up to another property he was reportedly renting in Hollywood, and within minutes, the 21-year-old was in handcuffs. A specialized task force moved in right after, searching the entire place and showing just how serious things had become. Then on April 20th, the charges officially dropped, and they were heavy. Prosecutors filed first-degree murder along with claims of lying in wait, financial motive, and other serious allegations, plus additional charges tied to unlawful handling of remains. At his first court appearance, David pleaded not guilty, but the judge denied bail, keeping him behind bars as the case moves forward. Now it's all leading to the preliminary hearing, where prosecutors are expected to present major evidence, from forensic results to digital data. This case is still unfolding with more details coming out. If you've been following, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about everything so far?